Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. What is going on? It is Gale here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Season 5 video. And today we will be delving into the extra details for Episode 4 and the big reveal, of course, given to us by the Danmachi staff and Fujino Omori himself. Of course, this video will contain spoilers regarding Episode 4. So, of course, if you haven't already, be sure to go check it out. Of course, it was one of the best episodes of Season 5 so far. And once more, it features a big reveal that you do not want to miss out, otherwise you will be getting spoiled very quickly. Now, of course, if you guys want to enjoy this video as well, remember to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for more content, and let me know in the comment section down below, what did you guys think about the extra details? Would you guys have liked to seen it in the anime itself in terms of course, giving us more content, or do you think it was something that could have been easily just explained to us separately, like how they are right now via Twitter and stuff? Let me know in the comments. I'm quite curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Now, of course, over the next few days, we're going to be coming back to episode 4 quite a bit because, of course, it featured the big reveal and it was also the end of volume 16's arc, effectively. So we are done with volume 16. From the next episode onwards, episode 5 to episode 9, we will be covering volume 17. So I will be doing a video in the next few days, obviously doing cut contents for episode 4, but along with that I want to obviously talk about how they handled volume 16 as a whole and whether or not they did a good job with it. And I want you guys to let me know in the comments actually as well, so far, based on everything that's happened episodes 1 to 4 in terms of how they handled volume 16 and by extension the choices they made with volume 15, because of course they did adapt some of volume 15. Do you guys think they made the right decisions, or do you guys think that they could have maybe changed some things around, or do you think they made the complete wrong decisions throughout? Let me know in the comment section down below, because I feel like there's going to be quite differing opinions depending on the fan you are of the series, I feel like, because I've seen people giving it like 5 or 6s out of 10s by certain fans, but I think majority of the fans I feel like are giving it 8s or 9s out of 10s, which is very good in my opinion. I think that means they've done a good job. But I want to see what you guys have to say down below in the comment section below, because that is going to be the most important thing for me to see in terms of course, my viewers and my audience, right? At the end of the day, because that's what I'm going to be directly seeing, right? So let me know in the comments. I'm quite curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Now, we're going to start off with the anime staff's extra details first and foremost, and then we will go check out Fujino Omori's Twitter account, which has become, in my opinion, basically a Hege fan account, because literally in the last day, basically, I've just seen posts from Omori Sensei about Hege only, literally. So we're gonna have to go back a little bit in time to check out some of the details regarding episode 4 itself. But anyways, anime staff first and foremost, we're gonna check out the tips, of course, right, for episode 4. We're starting off with tip number 1. The first big tip is, of course, regarding the first scene in the inn, right? Of course, where Belle comes out of the shower and, Sear is not wearing any pants, basically, and saying they were too baggy for me, so they kept falling off. They were too big for me to wear. They were too loose and kept falling off. And then, of course, Belle was like, just as I expected of Sear-san, she's so cunning. And then he was like, wait a second, that's not right, because Belle was wearing the women's pants and he gave Sear the men's pants, hence why Belle was wearing the women's uniform instead, which was kind of funny, and that's the reason why he was feeling his pants were tight as well. I remember that being in the light novel itself. So that was something that was slightly cut, you could say, right? In a way, you could have probably assumed that Sear was being cunning in that sense, but it was actually just a genuine mistake from Belle instead. So that was kind of funny in that regards. Now we move on to tip number 2, of course, which was the introduction of Hege, level 6 Hege Ragnar, and of course his weapon. Victim Abyss is a cursed weapon created by a certain sorcerer. You might want to know who that is, but we'll come on to that later on, of course. The effect is to increase the slash range. The weapon is known as the Vanguard Killer, as it takes lives with an invisible blade. Now, of course, one thing I really liked in this episode 4, was the way they portrayed the difference between level 6 Hege versus level 4 Ryu, and generally the Freya Familia versus the Hostess of Fertility. I've said this before. I said this in the most recent video as well, I think, right? Where in the episode breakdown, that the Hostess of Fertility have been shown to be effectively the first port of call for the Hestia Familia, usually, right? Ryu has come in season 1 to help out Belle, has come in season 2 to help out Belle, season 3, season 4, right? Same thing with the Hostess of Fertility by extension, especially in season 4 when they came in to, rescue Ryu and, of course, the rest of the Hestia Familia as well, right? But this is the first time we've seen a staggering difference where, yes, the Hostess of Fertility came in to help Belle and Sear, but they were absolutely mollywopped. They were manhandled. They were dismantled and torn into pieces effectively, right? Quite literally, they were torn into pieces. So in my opinion, they did a fantastic job in presenting that, because there is that level gap. You know, a majority of the Hostess of Fertility, Ryu level 4, Chloe, Anya, Lenor, they're around level 3 basically. They're in and around level 3s effectively. So there is a staggering difference between one level 4 plus 3 level 3s versus a bunch of level 6s and 5s basically. It's quite literally, that's the difference. That's the sheer difference, because Alan and Hege are level 6. The Gulliver brothers, I think, are level 5. I think a majority of them are level 5. I'd have to double check if all of them are level 5, but I'm pretty sure they are. I'm pretty sure they are. If I'm not mistaken, that they are all level 5. If I'm not mistaken, at the very least. Yeah, they're all level 5, pretty sure. Yeah, they are. I had to just double check. Because I wasn't sure if they were any higher. One of them was higher than the others or something like that. They're all level 5. So it's 2 level 6s, 4 level 5s versus 1 level 4, 3 level 3s. It's not even a competition. It's not even a competition. So as a result of that, in my opinion, that was one of the best portrayals, in my opinion, of like just a one-sided affair. I think it would have been nice seeing the combat being done a little bit better, a little bit more, I should say, not better, more, potentially like a bit more of an extended sequence. But at the same time, 60 seconds just manhandling was also a really good decision from the production staff, in my opinion. I think that was very well done. Now we move on to tip number 3. Now this is something I wish they had shown in the anime. Of course, it's great to see it here, right? But this was going to be something that I would have featured in my cut contents even more so, and in more detail in my because I think it's important as well. Lenor, of course, is also a bounty hunter. She was a former bounty hunter, and also Chloe as well was a bounty hunter. But Lenor specifically was a bounty hunter who actually received a request to assassinate the Gulliver brothers when they had just arrived in Orario. And she lost majorly. She lost majorly, and this is of course one of those things that I wish they portrayed in the anime a little bit better in terms of that hatred. We saw it a little bit in her face, a tiny bit, but we saw it in more detail with Anya, with Alan, right? For example, Anya and Alan's reactions were a little bit more in detail. This felt like Lenor was just getting ready to fight, which I feel like they could have maybe portrayed it at a little bit more anger and rage in her face, maybe. I think that would have been nicer. Maybe a little bit more fear, potentially. A little bit of combination of fear and rage. That would have been nice. But I think they tried their best in that situation. You know, I can't really blame them too much for, you know, not being able to portray it even better. Because while they've improved with their visual expressions, rage and fear being portrayed together without any other visual cues and like background changes and internal thoughts and stuff, it's tricky. I think they would have had to monologue a little bit with Lenor or something to be able to kind of pull out those thoughts of like, you know, what happened in the yesteryears. But yeah, not to mention people who may not know about this would have not known that she was a bounty hunter. They would have had to do maybe a flashback sequence in order to do this. So I can see why they may not have portrayed it really that well, but at the same time I would have appreciated it majorly so if they had tried to portray it as well. I think it would have been a very much appreciative thing. We move on to tip number 4. And this is where things get interesting, because of course some of you guys may know, some of you guys may not know. Of course, if you played Danmachi, if you've read the light novels, you already knew this. But Alan and Anya are actually real siblings. They're both siblings, Alan from Mel and Anya from Mel. The relationship is also mentioned in Freya Familiar Chronicles. So of course, right now, the Hostess of Fertility is dominated by 3 Freya Familiar members, or ex-Freya Familiar members, you could say, or technically a Freya Familiar head and 2 ex-Familiar members. Mia, of course, the ex-captain of the Freya Familiar. Anya, obviously ex-Freya Familiar member as well, sibling to Alan. And then, of course, Sear, or Freya herself, technically, as an extension. So there is that, of course, right? So nepotism is real, as I was joking with some other people in my live stream yesterday. but of course, Freya Familiar Chronicles is something I'd urge people to read. Honestly, it gives you a bit more of an insight into Freya as a character. It gives you more insight into also the Freya Familiar members themselves as well, a little bit more as well. And I think it's a good way to get an idea on everybody before episode 5 and volume 17 content begins. It is available for a limited time, it seems like, I think, as well, each past days. So be sure to go check it out. I mean, of course, if you don't want to do that as well, I would say the other alternative is you can go and check out Don Mimo's iteration of Freya Familiar Chronicles. If we go over here, Freya Familiar Chronicles, Don Mimo, you can see that part 1 and part 2 are both available. All of these guys have done a fantastic job in, of course, keeping it online, of course, mediocre, and of course, Gachampus probably has it as well. But yeah, be sure to go check it out, of course, right? You've got these guys obviously having done the episode Freya stuff, so it's a good way to get an idea on everything that goes down. So yeah, be sure to go check it out. It's pretty good. It is pretty good in that sense. Now, of course, let's go back here and check out tip number 5, of course, as well. Before, I think this was going to be the last tip. The first day was the real Sear. The second day was the fake Sear. From the moment they first met in the series, Belle realized that Sear was a fake. From then on, Belle never called her Miss Sear. That is quite interesting. I didn't actually realize that in the anime they included that part, but that's pretty cool. So this is something I mentioned in my whole what the fuck just happened video yesterday, and of course the day before when I obviously reacted to the episode as well, is that the first entire day that Belle was with Sear for the date was actually Freya. The second day after Belle woke up from the inn and everything, that was Horde. So keep that in mind. So the Freya we saw on day 1 in the goddess's tower, basically during the harvest, right? Harvest festival, was actually Horn as Freya. So keep that in mind. There is a bit of a difference there, and something to keep in mind. Outside of that, throughout the entire series, when it comes to the anime at least, whenever we've seen Sear, it's been Freya. Whenever we've seen Freya, it's been Freya. We've never seen Freya being represented by Horn, or seeing Sear being represented by Horn in any of the scenes. Now, in the light novels, this is something that was unfortunately cut in volume 8 or season 2 of the anime, which again, it all comes back to season 2 being a freaking mess, is what I say. Again, I'm gonna actually make a video talking about this as well in the near future, maybe in a couple of days time, is how badly season 2 just destroyed season 3, season 4, and season 5 in some way, shape, or form, in terms of just the content or contents and the contexts as well. I feel they definitely did do a bad job there with season 2 in terms of like what was being put into the season, right? Anyways, coming back to my point, in season 2 or volume 8 of the light novels, what should have been in the anime as well was there was a specific scene with Belle and Sear in the orphanage, which would have also expanded on Sear/Freya's character quite a lot as well. Now remember, Sear's feelings, or Freya's feelings as Sear, or whenever she was Sear, were like a different personality, a personality that she also really appreciates and adopts, and it's not like it's a fake personality necessarily. It's like she wants to be like that. She really has been emulating like that. That's why she said that maybe this was a bad idea all along, and I should have never done this. I should have just done it the way I always do and take it by force at the end of the episode 4, right? When she turns back into Freya, it's like, I'm not letting him go now. This is not happening. I tried my best in this way. I tried what should have been the right way. It didn't work. I'm gonna do it this way now. But anyways, coming back to my point, was in season 2 we were supposed to have a scene with Sear and Belle in the orphanage. They obviously met a bunch of kids that actually are not prominent characters, but definitely characters that we kind of see regularly in the light novels here and there, actually, funnily enough. And then we also had a moment where we saw Freya in the front lines with Rakia when they were fighting the Rakia army. And what that kind of hinted towards at the time was our theories were wrong, in the sense that Sear wasn't actually Freya, and it was actually somebody else. Sear was actually connected to Freya in some way, shape, or form still, but she wasn't Freya herself, because how are they in 2 spots at one time, kind of thing, And so that was where it first kind of started, or Omori started kind of detouring us off that path that we were kind of already realizing in a way that, Freya was going to be Sear, kind of thing, you know. It was detouring us off that, but of course it ended up being the case anyways, that Freya was Sear, just not in the way we expected it to be, basically, right? And so that is the reason why, if they had adapted that in the anime and stuff, people would have thought this reveal was a little bit more surprising, because then we would have realized, wait a second, there's a bit of a confusion going on here. There's a bit of concern going on here. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was something that I wish they had done in season 2. And I mean, of course, I wish they had adapted Volume 8 even better. So that would have been fantastic. But yeah, it was at least one scene I think that should have been in season 2, in my personal opinion. But it is what it is, of course, as they say. It is what it is. Now we come on to the final tip number 6. Episode 4 solves one of the biggest mysteries in the history of Danmachi. The ending theme that plays during the important scene is Hydrate by Saju Nohana. Please read the lyrics, and as the story progresses, you may discover things and new things and discover new characters' feelings. Available on all. Yeah. You can go and listen to the ED whenever you want by Saju Nohana. But yeah, it is. I think they did that fantastically, in my opinion. At the end, is playing the ending song, but not the ending animation. I think that is what they need to do regularly. It just gives you an extra like minute and a half in every single episode, which can be quite a few scenes being compiled into, of course. And you know, you avoid that need of like, oh god, I have, you know, we're missing a minute and a half, we can't add anything, and it's like, no, you could have just skipped the ending or something, you know what I mean? They skipped the opening. That's a fantastic decision. That's something they have to keep doing, man. This is, it's quite frustrating that they don't do it as often as they should do it, but they do. When they do it, it's a good decision. It's a very good decision, in my opinion. So that's my personal opinion on that front now, of course, right? Now, anyways, let's go over to Fujino Omori's Twitter account, and of course, let's read his first thoughts about episode 4. Thank you for episode 4. I can't say anything anymore. It was so close and sad that I almost vomited. Thank you so much to everyone involved. I would like to prostrate myself. Damn, okay. Before director Tachibana, who was particularly particular about the film, I want to, or particularly particular about the episode. I want to watch the next episode quickly, but I don't want to watch it. Please look forward to episode 5. Again, I have I have a lot of respect for you know, the animation team and Omori Sensei for how involved they've been over the last 2 seasons, in particular season 4 and season 5. It definitely feels like they've you know, actually figured it out finally as to what they need to do with this series as a whole, because I feel like season 1 they had the right idea. They absolutely cooked with season 1 really well, in my opinion. Even though it was 5 light novels, they missed out on a couple of scenes here and there, but they still did a good job for what was a season 1, right? Season 2, I don't know what happened. Honestly, it was just overall a misstep over misstep. I think obviously I think volume 7 was handled well, but volume 6 and volume 8 was just a joke, effectively, right? It was very much a joke, right? And then of course season 3, again, it was good, but it was not as great as it should have been, right? It wasn't amazing, it was good, and that shouldn't have been the case for what is one of the most loved light novel arcs in Danmachi, volumes 9 to 11. It being as okay and good as it was not the direction it should have been, right? And it's finally nice to see that, you know, season 4, season 5, they've kind of clocked what they need to do, right? They've clocked what they need to do, and hopefully they continue with it in, you know, with volume 17's adaptation and volume 18's adaptation in this season, right? It's too early to say, of course, for season 5, I know, but I think volume 16 and the way they adapted it, in my opinion, and of course to people who I've spoken to, close friends of mine who I've spoken to, it's been very good, in all honesty. They've actually nailed it, so that is fantastic. Omori actually also praises this scene particularly, so I'm very appreciative of it. You know, that this was really good. I think this was a fantastic scene with Welf and Belle's whole big brother little brother moment, like Omori is saying, right? The conversation is very important, and of course Omori was saying don't cut this part during script meetings, which I think was a good decision, in my opinion. And he was even saying this in the original light novel as well, to, you know, to the editors, to not cut this part, or not to, you know, edit this part out, because this is actually, I agree, I wouldn't say it's one of Belle's turning points, but it's a very important learning point for him. It's a very important moment for him to kind of understand, you know, especially from Welf, you know, and I think a lot of the familiar members, and Belle included, knows of Welf's affection and love towards Hephaestus. Obviously, this is something the anime viewer doesn't know, which again, I think if this is again a black mark against Volume 8 not being in the anime, but I think anime onlys would have realized Welf's dialogue and how important it was from two perspectives. One, if the Hestia familiar knew about the or Liaris Freeze, and we've been shown it, of course we know that they know, but it would have been appreciative if they shown it in season 2 in more detail, right? And number two, if they'd shown Welf's relationship with Hephaestus and how they're in love with one another, of course, right? And their affection towards one another more particularly so. And so it is it would have been so imperative actually in this moment, because you would have known from where Welf is coming from. It's not just from a wiser, older, big brother perspective, but it's from somebody who's been through it and who knows Belle as well, from his own feelings and his own personality as well. So I think that could have been so good to have in season 2, which would have then affected this specific scene. Again, it's all about carrying forward stuff from previous seasons. That always is going to come into play, because these characters are being developed from the first season to this current season, right? Or whatever current season we're going to be on in the future as well. And I feel like, again, it comes down to season 2 just being poorly done, to be honest. It just comes down to that, unfortunately, right? At the end of the day, it really does come down to that majorly so. Why did you suggest we go on a date? That's a bad move, Usagi-chan. I said to myself when I was writing volume 16, but I thought Belle would definitely say it. Oh my god. Yeah, that is fair. He's not wrong. He's not wrong, obviously, right? Even if her eyes stained, they quickly returned to normal. The same thing happened when Ishtar got angry in season 2 of the anime. Yeah. So obviously, this is something that a lot of people may have been confused a little bit about. Is how was Belle able to, effectively restrain himself from, of course, the charm. But this is not something we've seen for the very first time in season 2. This is the first time I'll say season 2 actually did a good job in this one. But of course, we saw Ishtar trying to charm Belle, but it didn't work. It did not work, and that was because of Liaris Freeze, of course, right? So that's something to bear in mind as well. Belle can now easily dance out from the 3rd and 4th floor of a building. It's a moving experience. Yes, sir. That's the power of a level 4 for you, basically. That's the power of a level 4 for you now. I want to take a look at this thread, because this thread is usually the one that always, like, when he does a big thread, it's basically the one where he goes into more details about, like, stuff in the light novel, and of course something that wasn't that adapted into the anime. It's a bit of a hassle, but I'll try to make up for it a little this week. Even before the first volume of the original novel, Sear Flora was released, even before the first volume of the original novel was released, I decided that Sear Flova would be the first one to confess her feelings to the protagonist first. Okay, that is actually surprising to me. I mean, it makes sense considering all things said and done. Considering Sear is probably the most openly teasing one of all of them, considering all things said and done. Yes, Lily and Hestia are there, but I feel like Sear was, I think, probably the best option in that sense of the bunch, and the most obvious one to probably actually confess her feelings, I think, as well. I think it makes the most sense. Okay, this doesn't give me a translation. Thank you, Google. I appreciate it. Let me change this. I was happy to see the director's note on the storyboard saying the hardest cut in episode 4. I think the relationship between Horn and the others will be touched lightly on episode 5. So please wait a little. That's good, because I think there were a couple of people in my comment section asking, like, more details about, were asking for more, were wishing they'd actually have explored Horn's feelings and, overall thoughts a little bit more in episode 4. So if it is going to be in episode 5, that's very promising. So let's wait and see on that front. Of course, it's a bit promising. It's a bit of a spoiler there, I suppose, but yeah. Dainsliv, this is the trigger, or Chinibu. I think this is the trigger for Hege, who suffers from social phobia, scopophobia, and tunic disease, and is surviving the situation to summon his strongest self. I think this will be explained somewhere in the anime, so I'll keep it brief. I fell in love with Hege-kun even more after reading this episode. I mean, hey, listen, I respect that. I think it's pretty cool to see his appreciation for Hege. I think Hege is one of those characters that I feel like is going to be very underrated in a way, but I think he will definitely be appreciated. I think he'll be definitely very appreciated by the fan base. He'll be like a under the radar, really well liked character. I think, I feel like that's gonna be the case. Let's see this. I can't help but tweet. Although I decided to finish volume 16 in episode 4, or 4 episodes as the original author. So he's the one who decided. Okay, I'm just saying, I'm just saying to those fans who keep blaming JC stuff. As the original author, I naturally felt like I wanted also one more chapter. That might have made the end scene even more luxurious. Horns digging. I think assume it would be more scenes of Freya versus everyone. So okay, so 3 things he wanted. He wanted to make the end scene a little bit better, which I think I agree with. I think there's one scene in particular that I would have appreciated them to expand on a little bit, and it's when Belle gets charmed. Delving into Liara's Freeze a little bit more would have been good. Horn's thought process, and just general experience overall, or her vocalizing her thoughts in more detail and stuff. Yes, I agree with that. Freya versus the Hostess of Fertility. I think I saw some people wanting more of that. I think that could have made sense as well. So overall, yeah, that is fair. I think that these 3 things would have definitely made the 4th episode, or the extended 4th episode as he's wanting it to be, better. I think this was one episode that they could have probably made an hour long if they wanted to. I think they could have made this a 40-minute long episode and they wouldn't have been disappointed with it, in my opinion. I think that would have been a good idea. It was really difficult to choose because it was so condensed, but I really loved these 4 episodes, or rather the director's boards were really amazing. And even with that, they were very well trimmed, and the length, if only there weren't any time restrictions. Anyways, it was the best. I'm glad that Fujinori Omori likes the episode. I think it was pretty solid as well. As a fan, as somebody who liked Volume 16, I think Volume 16 was, of course, a very setup. Obviously, it's the first light novel in a long arc, right? I think Volume 16 was something that was, I wouldn't say it was the trickiest one of the 3 to handle. I think Volume 17 will be the most difficult one to adapt, and I think that's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out, because I think Volume 18 is going to be super easy. Honestly, I would have suggested actually. So we know episodes 1 to 4 is Volume 16, episodes 5 to 9 is Volume 17, and episodes 10 to 15 is most likely going to be Volume 18. That's at least the current expectation, because of the way the Blu-rays are set up, right? We know already there's 2 discs of Blu-rays coming out. Blu-ray 1 is episodes 1 to 9, and then Blu-ray disc 2 is episodes 10 to 15. So it makes sense that 10 to 15 is the finale. It's Volume 18, right? I would have probably said that I would have taken 1 episode from Volume 60 or Volume 18 and put it towards Volume 16 and 17, one of the 2 basically. I think that would have been better. Probably Volume 17. Make 4 episodes for Volume 16, 6 episodes for Volume 17, and 5 episodes for Volume 18, because I don't think Volume 18 needs that much. Personally, at least in my opinion, I don't think Volume 18 needs that many episodes, or 6 episodes. I think 5 episodes is more than enough in my personal opinion. But I'll go into more details about my thoughts on Volume 16 and how it was adapted overall, of course, right? In a few days' time, of course, right? But I genuinely think that they nailed it, in my personal opinion. I think they did a good job. I think they absolutely cooked. Yes, could there have been better scenes? Absolutely. But for a 4 episode count, with the time given, with all the contents that they included the right contents, in my opinion. I don't think they misstepped at all. Frankly speaking, I'll be very honest and say that. I'll brutally say that. I don't mind, actually. You know what? I'm not going to be nice about it. I think they actually made the right decisions with the right scenes. Do I think that, yes, could they have done a little bit more with, obviously, the Albert I scene? Yes, I do think so. Could they have done a little bit more in the most recent episode with, particularly, in my opinion, the Liara's Freeze scene? Yes, in my opinion, of course, right? But they cut out stuff like the orphanage scene, which made sense. I think that was the right decision to do. And a couple of other scenes that I feel like could have also been pretty good. You know, Hestia going back to the Hearth mansion to, actually find out where Belle is, giving us context as to how they were able to find Belle on the ship, for example, and a couple of other scenes. I think they made the right decisions. I think they generally did make the right decisions. And they didn't cut out any of the major important scenes that I believed should be in the season, considering the important characters of the season. You have to remember that this season is surrounding Sear, Freya, and by extension the Freya Familia. Ryu is still a major plot point as well, considering what's happened in volumes 12 to 14. She plays a major role as well, not to mention, not only because of her relationship to Belle, but also to her relationship with Sear. They're best friends basically, right? So it's as much as people would want to say that, like episode 1, for example, they should have probably done Aiz and Albert over the Ryu scene. I would actually disagree with that, only because of the context of the season. I do think the Eisen Albert scene is very important, and I really do hope that they add it in some way, shape, or form at the end of the season, maybe as a post-credit scene of episode 15. I think that would be a perfect place to actually add it, and it would still kind of fit chronologically because it could still be there. It doesn't have to be like in a specific point. The way it was portrayed in the light novel, you could actually place it in any part of the timeline and it would have been perfectly fine. The point is that I think the Ryu scene, considering it took place right after the events of season 4 and it was leading into the effects of season 5, sorry, I was gonna say season 6 for some reason, season 5, I think it was important to place it there. I'm just giving you guys my point of view in regards to one particular scene there, of course, right? But generally, I'm glad that Omori feels the same way in terms of like he feels that the this was volume 16 was handled really well. I'm hoping it carries forward into volume 17 and 18, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes, of course. We're gonna obviously cover the upcoming episodes in more detail when the time comes, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. Of course, if you guys enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.